When things were getting better for my mom's family in Korea, they were able to afford a car. My mom's brother was obsessed with driving it. One night he was on his way back from Seoul and going through an empty straight highway, single lane, no dividers on a double yellow line. A woman with a pale face, a white torn-up dress flagged him down, hitchhiking. My mom's brother asked her if she was crazy and if she was freezing. She responds by telling him she needs a ride back to her home and that she will pay for him on that. My mom's brother lets her in and they drive to her home. To avoid awkwardness, my uncle would break conversation. She told me that he described her as strange, the type of the girl that looks straight and does not like to respond. She only answered questions that regarded to herself and her destination. When they got there, my uncle was saying goodbye to her, and in the middle of his goodbye, she gets up, puts the money on her seat, and leaves the car. My uncle, thinking to himself that she was a waste of time, he should not have done it, looks at the money she gave him, and it's not money. They were a handful of dry leaves. Well, my uncle gets out of the car and knocks on the door that the girl said her house was. A woman, middle-aged, answered the door. My uncle asked if he can speak to the girl. He just drove and wanted to be paid. She tells him that she and her husband live alone. They don't have kids. My uncle, for confused and angry, told him that she asked to be dropped off here and saw her walking towards the door. The woman and her husband tell my uncle that he is mistaken. My uncle described her to them, hoping they might have seen her, and they go quiet. The story is that they closed the door on him, and after a couple minutes the lady that lives there comes out and tells him it must have been her daughter. She knows him, a photograph of her in high school, and my uncle said that was her. She said that her daughter died getting hit by a car walking home on the side of the highway almost 6 years ago. After that she and her husband say farewell to him and he drives home. When I go to my uncle's place during special occasions, they are four real big and dry leaves in a picture frame that has the date written on the bottom of the frame. It's from the late 60s. My uncle drove a ghost and helped her return home. My uncle, while in Korea, was industrialist during 60s. My great uncle would have to bike to work every day, living in a slum with rural area around the bad communicate, but to his job he had the option of biking through the country into the city or to cut through all that by going through a giant cemetery. Every single time he biked through the cemetery, something would hold on to his bike. When he got to a certain point, it would happen a roundabout with the cemetery memorial in the middle. No matter how fast he was going, something would hold on to his bike. My grandmother told me, he said at one point he tried hiking the bike way standing away from it, and the bike was upright and did not budge. My uncle would have to beg and plead to nobody to let him go. They would not let go unless he begged, sobbing on his knees, sobbing, or if he gave them something of personal value. Biking back from work was worse. He had to do it during night time. The city is too dangerous to go through, so he did not have much of choice. Keep in mind this was Korea Industrial Revolution. They were modernizing with the rest of the world. There were no lights in the cemetery, just the gas little candle on the memorial. This one day, my great-uncle came home sobbing without his bike. My grandmother asked him what is wrong, and he said a few people robbed him in the cemetery on the way home. She asked him to describe them, and he said one of them looked like he was missing an arm, the other one looked like his leg was blown off, and the last guy he said must have been born deformed because it looked like he was missing part of his skull. I asked what kind of cemetery it was, and it was dedicated to the soldier that died during the Korean War.